All right, everyone, we got to talk about Joe Biden again because he's the gift that keeps on giving. It's like after the 2016 election, we had Hillary, and she'd say off-the-wall things 2 or 3 times a week, and it gobbled up a lot of video time. And there's probably about 10 hours of videos on this channel from that era just of talking about Hillary Clinton saying weird shit. Now we've got Joe Biden. He's arguably even better because not only do we have additional corn pop era material about him talking about roaches and kids rubbing his legs in the pool and things that are weird in the context of him being a little touchy-feely, dirty old man sort of thing. And not only do we have him, sucking on his wife's finger at a public event inexplicably. It's like it was meant as a joke, you can tell, but it wasn't funny. The only thing that was laughed at was Joe Biden, and not in a good way. Now we have him coming out and he says, well, I spent a lot of time with Kim Jong-un. Well, that's actually false. He literally never met Kim Jong-un. He's never been to North Korea. So, Joe Biden now misremembering Trump and or Obama as though they were himself. He's beginning to put himself in other people's shoes, which is an admirable trait. A lot of people don't do that enough. The problem is he's delusional and he's doing it involuntarily. Is this man really fit to be the president of the United States? The answer is clearly no. Joe Biden is not capable of leading this nation. If he were to be elected, I suspect that he would very quickly be out of office, either due to health problems or due to resignation. People would force him out. They'd say, look, we can't, we love you, Joe. You're a liberal, a neo-lib like us. You love the corporations and sometimes bombing people. That's all great. Your mind is kind of like the older, boring version of Obama. But we can't deal with this because you're a fucking raging lunatic. Once a person gets to the point where they're showing outward signs of possible dementia, society steps in usually and says that depending on what these people are doing, there could be a risk to themselves or others. Now, personally, let me just rant for a second about dementia and me. If I get demented and I'm not harming other people, let me be. Let me fucking fall down the stairs and die. I will be happier there than putting me in an old folks home. That's a dictate, by the way. Anyone, my kids or anyone that tries to put me in an old folks home, they lose their inheritance. I'll hold it over their heads. And I'll have 2 lawyers that'll sue one another if they try to. So it'll be an interesting time. I'm going to make it as difficult as possible. I'm going to die on my own terms. I don't care if I wander around naked and smear my poo on the walls like Joe Biden probably does if he doesn't take his fucking pills. That being said, if you're a public official, you're taxpayer funded in the office that you're seeking, that's a different story altogether. It's not private life. Joe Biden wants to get paid by the American people to represent the American people. The American people, as his prospective employer, have the right to expect that he is going to be safe and sound mentally, that he will complete his term reasonably, and that he will do a reasonably good job of representing the best interests of the United States. I don't think he can do that. I believe that Joe Biden is too mentally sick to function in that capacity. The man has trouble remembering simple sentence structure. The man has difficulty remembering who he met with, what he ate last night. He has dementia. Regardless of whether you chalk it up to actual Alzheimer's, you say, look, he's just an old dude. He's starting to forget stuff. He's fucking senile. He is a near 77-year-old man, and he does and says weird things and constantly contravenes himself and tells 50-year-old stories as though they happened yesterday. When your grandparent, or in some cases great-grandparent, begins acting the way Joe Biden does, you give him the fisheye, don't you? When Grandpa starts telling the same story that he told 17 fucking times before in the last week, you say, oh, I heard that before. Oh, yeah, that's right. I told you that story about the giant fish I caught that one time. It gets a little bit frustrating sometimes, and I've dealt with Alzheimer's personally. I don't have Alzheimer's. You know what I mean? It can get a little frustrating. It's also sad, and it can get scary at times, honestly. Joe Biden's family needs to step in and tell him, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you running in this race? Why are you here? You are not going to win the presidency. It is not physically possible for you to mount the kind of campaign that you need to mount to win anyway. You're having enough problems. You were practically a shoo-in. You were riding on 35-40 in a 12-person race. You've pissed away most of your advantage. You might not even win all the starting states despite being 10 points ahead in national polling. Are you telling me that you expect to go up against Trump with a coalition of the bored and the old within the Dem Party, alienating half of the voter base? It's not going to happen. Joe Biden's not going to set foot back in the White House while he's above ground. They'll put him in the rotunda of the Capitol and let him lie in wake when he finally croaks, which could easily be within the next 4 years. He'll be over 80 years old. He'll be 81 years old at that point. What are you talking about? At the end of a possible presidential term. 81 years old? My goodness, a few years ago we were having a national debate over whether it was acceptable for a 70-year-old man and a 69-year-old woman to be running against each other to be president of the United States. We were having a national conversation about the fact that on the Dem side, her challenger at the time was 74, Bernie Sanders, who's back in it again now, almost 78. We had a national conversation about whether it was proper because the taxpayers expect their money is going to go towards a person who will be mentally capable of representing them. There are enough people that ramble on about Trump, he's incoherent, he can't speak right. Dude, look at Joe Biden. Trump's already in there. He's the incumbent. You're just voting for what you already know if you vote for him. With Joe Biden, I don't know how he's going to act. What weird shit's he going to get up to if he gets back in the White House? Who the hell is he going to... I guess his running mate will be the one that'll probably end up being president for most of even his possible first term. He will probably be forced to resign. You do realize that. If under the pressure of running for office, as he is right now, he's cracked like an egg to the point that he has. He's got enough emotional difficulties. The amount of personal tragedy he's had in his life would drive the average person insane. How is he legitimately going to represent the United States? He randomly goes off and insults his own fans at events. Oh, well, I have misgivings, Mr. Biden. Here, I challenge you to prove why I should vote for you. Oh, well, you should vote for Trump. That's a winning strategy. Telling people to vote for your opponent is a really great way to get elected. This is the Dem frontrunner, dude. He never met with Kim Jong-un, but he claims that he did. Don't you think that that's a sign of problems mentally within a person? That's something significant. It's not like, oh yeah, I love Oreos. Oh, but Mr. Biden, he never tried Oreos because you're allergic to one of the ingredients, the shortening or something. That would be a little thing. Nobody would care. Oh, okay, he misremembered the fact that that he likes the color green, but this book says that his favorite color is red. Nobody cares about that. You're talking about meeting a significant foreign leader of a nuclear state that we are technically at war with. You believe that you met him multiple times. You spent a lot of time with him, but you didn't. You've never even talked to him. I don't know what to say. It's scary thinking about the possibility of somebody like that having access to the nuclear codes. Yeah, I'm just going to come out and say it. Much with hydrogen, Hillary Clinton, the last time around, rambling about Iran, and we'll take care of them if they do the wrong thing. And laughing about having a Gaddafi sodomized and raped in the streets and then summarily executed in extremely painful fashion. She thought that was funny. Warmongering fucking hydrogen Hillary. The idea of a presidency involving someone that was that flippant about the concept of nuclear war was scary. With Joe Biden, the concept that someone could blow a membrane in the White House and do crazy things, and that because of Trump derangement syndrome they could have that ability, is a little bit scary. And Joe Biden is one of the more sane Democrats. Look, the socialism that Sanders and Elizabeth Warren are pandering exceeds the destructive capabilities of nuclear weaponry. Dude, we've got cities in this world that have been hit by atomic weapons. They look pretty modern right now. There are cities in this world hit by socialism. 100 years later, they never recovered. I think I'd rather get hit by the atomic weapon. I'd rather Rutland got hit by an atom bomb today and go back to find a smoldering crater where my house was. I guarantee that the rebuilding would be easier than if Vermont were run directly by a Bernie Sanders and a legislature that acted like him. Oh yeah, I would leave Vermont if that happened. I'd stay around with the radiation. I can take potassium iodide. I could put on a gas mask and wander around the woods and scrap parts to build my settlement before Preston arrives and tells me I have to walk halfway across the state. That's perfectly fine. Can't deal with the socialism aspect. So just think of that. I mean, Joe he's lost it. He's completely fucking crazy, dude. Anyone within the Democratic Party who's still supporting this dude, what are you thinking? How do you expect him to beat Trump? He's so incoherent. You expect him to debate him. Trump is still a wordsmith when it comes to off-the-cuff insults. He will antagonize Biden. He'll prowl around the stage like a lion. I'll tell you what Trump will do, because he's Sun Tzu 2.0. He will antagonize Biden. he'll get Biden to try to be as manly as he feigns with his insults, with his behavior. He'll get Biden prowling around the stage and trying to take jabs at him. But Biden's not capable of doing that without making mistakes, and Trump knows it. I remember the 2012 election. A lot of you probably don't. Some of you were too young to care or know at the time, and others of you are just don't fucking care as much as I do. Do you remember horses and bayonets? That famous moment, I think it was in the second presidential debate. Or killing Big Bird. Or binders full of women. Mitt Romney was the gift that kept on giving because he tried to stand toe-to-toe with Obama verbally, but he simply couldn't do it. He wasn't rhetorically skilled enough. He wasn't quick enough on his feet. He's like 20 years old, or he's kind of a boring, corporatistic dude. He just couldn't cut it. And so he kept giving interesting little sound bites that could get seized upon and made into memes to his enemies. And that's why he lost. Because it made him sound crazy. He wasn't actually being crazy. Obama was just taking proper jabs at him. Romney would try to follow suit, and he failed. And so he would say weird shit that didn't, like, oh, I've got binders full of women that applied for these jobs. No sane, reasonable person in the course of a political debate says such a thing. You have just given a massive arrow into your enemy's quiver. What is Joe Biden going to do if you get him on a debate stage and get him hot under the collar against Trump? He's going to say and do weird things. He's going to try to cast Trump off as hateful, bigoted, spiteful, racist, sexist, homophobic. He's going to do that by insulting, which he's shown a proclivity towards doing, and he's going to hang himself politically. He'll be completely aired out by Trump. Any Democrat supporting his bid, be very, very aware. If you nominate Joe Biden, you lose, I think, at this point. Like, for a while there, I said, well, maybe, like, other than Buttigieg and a few of the others, he'd probably lose anyway, but he's more viable than some of them. I no longer think that. Biden might be the least viable because he's so volatile. He just can't even figure out what to fucking say. That's about all. Peace out.